Shalom Lekulam, and welcome to our lesson number 18 on our study on the book of Zohar. Today we're going to continue with the Vision of Rabbi Chyah, and we're going to finish the Vision of Rabbi Chyah because and start then the next part of the Zohar called Who is Your Partner? And the reason we're doing that is because the end of the Vision of Rabbi Chyah introduces us to certain numerology that we need to understand when we enter the next subject called Who is Your Caller in the Zohar. Be As always, what we're going to do is we're going to start with an intention. So we're going to pay attention to these letters that we see in the front of us. These are names of God that have been filled. And what we're going to do is we're going to scan them from right to left. Try not to make sense of what it says in there. Just scan the letters from right to left. You don't have to do it in a hurry, just from right to left. And this is a way for us to start building the vessel, the intention as well. A vessel where we are going to receive the light of the Zohar, and also to create this something that we're going to be talking about as we enter the new subjects here, the subject or the screen, creating an intention. Creating an intention is creating a screen, creating this connection or cabala that will help us attain this light of light Torah inside our vessel. So scan these names of God and think about the intention of receiving the light, not for ourselves, but receiving the light for the sake of others, in order for us to also attain the light of the Creator, to become good that does good. So I'm gonna give you a few seconds, and then we'll start our learn. So before we start our lesson on the Zohar, certain object we are called example means which first so basically feminine waters, masculine waters, a prayer and an answer, a request and a fulfillment of that request. And we need to also keep in mind that when we're raising the feminine waters, when we're doing these prayers, we're doing it from the letter Tav to the letter Aleph. And when we're receiving the answer from above, this is done by way of the Tav from above to the Aleph below. So it's basically kind of like a backward or inversion of light and vessel, as we have learned in other Kabbalah lessons. So I want you to keep this concept in mind. Also, understand that we talked about how the letters are found in what we call the Serampin and the Nukba of the tree of life, right? So the Tav is going to start from the very bottom of Mahut all the way to Kuf, that is really close to Yesod. Then Sadik, Teth are going to be in the outer and inner aspects of Yesod. And then we're going to see that all the other letters from Aleph to Het and Yod to Pei, these are also inner and outer aspects. And we're going to be talking about this as we cover the next Zohar. But keep this in mind, because when he mentions about the letters, when he mentions about the Aleph Tov and the meaning of Aleph Tov, what it means, when he says Bereshit bara Elohim et, what does these words actually mean according to the Zohar? So these are things that we have covered in previous lessons of the Zohar, and I'm gonna go over them. But just keep in mind that these subjects are gonna be covered. Also, the subject of var and the concept of this and Chokmah, we're talking about that. And so we have it in etymology. So how these verses help us understand when the Zohar mentioned 270,000 firmaments or 70,000 firmaments. We're gonna understand which level in this tree of life, in this system, we are actually talking about, or where we are actually working with. Okay, so let's make sure we keep that in mind. So let's start studying the book of Zohar. And we're going to start with, in order to finish the Vision of Rabbi Chyah, we're going to start with item number 57. And it is read in the following way. Meanwhile, he heard a voice call out, "Move aside, make room. The King Messiah is coming to the academy of Rabbi Shimon, because all the righteous people there are the heads of their academies, which are known on high, and all the disciples of each academy ascend from this academy here to the heavenly academy, and the Messiah visits all these academies and signs of the learned rabbis. At that time, the King Messiah came, crowned by heavenly diadems that he had received from the heads of the academies." And what we were talking here was that there was a revelation when the angel Metatron, Natat, came and make an oath. He swore, that he heard from behind the curtain how each day of the Creator remember and grieves over Malchut, cast into the dust. So basically means even though Malchut is in the lowest part of the level of this system that we have previously talked about, the Creator wants to elevate Malchut, and we're going to see that as we study now the rest of the Vision of Rabbi Chyah, and then when we enter Who is Your Partner. So as a result of that revelation of the end of correction that is going to happen, when Malchut is corrected, this revelation that was concealed in that oath that Metatron did, all the righteous that are in front of Rabbi Shimon, in Rabbi Shimon's Bar Yochai's assembly or yeshiva, were elevated. Especially two groups were elevated, and these groups of righteous that were elevated by the oath of Metatron were elevated because of that oath, and as a result, they obtained what is called upper degrees and reached the levels of Rosh Yeshivot, which is heads of the yeshiva, the yeshivot, the assemblies. And for this reason, each assembly has members and a Rosh, a head. And this is, let me find the schematics for that so it can make more sense. This is basically what is called Vak and Gar. So basically, you have the body of the yeshiva is gonna be called Vak, and the head is gonna be called Gar. The Gar comes from Gimel Rishonot, the three upper ones. Okay. And when he says, make room for the Messiah, the after the oath of Metatron, after Metatron revealed that secret of the resurrection, appeared and commanded to prepare a place for the King Mashiach, the King Messiah. And this is why we're gonna see not only in religious circles but also in Kabbalah that we talk about the end of correction and this future redemption as the era of the Messiah. And even though we call a king, it doesn't mean that it's a person, it's a state of consciousness that the whole humanity is going to reach once we get rid of our egoistic way of not only treating each other but also the way of using spiritual tools. And then he continues. Remember, we're reading from the comments of Al HaSulam, from the Sulam commentaries on the Zohar. He says that the level of Mashiach, the level of Messiah, is the light of Yehidah. And if all the members has not reached the level of Rosh Yeshivot, the levels of head of the assembly, the Gar of the degree, which is the three upper degrees in the system, they will not have merited the revelation of seeing the face of Mashiach. But it says that these heads of these assemblies, these heads of these yeshivot, are not Gar of the low degrees. Rather, they represent a level higher than that. And because they're in a higher level, they can reach what is called the heavenly yeshiva of Metatron. Let's go to item 58. Make sure I find it. At the same time, other friends of Rabbi Shimon as well stood up. Rabbi Shimon's light reached up to the Empyrean, so Empyrean means, to the heaven or firmament. The King Messiah said to him, Rabbi, how blessed you are that your Torah or teaching has been elevated by the illumination of 370 lights, and every single light has been explained in 613 ways. Then they rise up and bathe themselves in the rivers of pure persimmon. And the Holy One, blessed be He, approved the Torah study of your academy and the academy of Hezekiah, the king of the Judean kingdom, and of the academy of Ahiah the Shilonite. I have come to prove the Torah of your yeshiva academy only because the winged one, the winged one means Metatron, is on his way here, and I know that he shall not enter any other yeshiva, only yours. So when the Messiah reveals himself to this group of people and came to Rabbi Shimon's yeshiva, the assembly of Rabbi Shimon, all the members stood up, meaning that they ascended from this level that is called Vak to the level of Gar, meaning they ascended from this level, lower level of the body, and achieved that level of the Mochin, the higher levels of spirituality. So this indicates also that Rabbi Shimon has attained what is called the light of 10 firmaments. The previously missing 10th firmament in the clouds in the count that Malchut the Malchut was closed, as we mentioned in previous lessons, he has actually achieved these 10 lights, not only 9, 10 lights in each level, and has attained the light of Yehidah. And now he's able to receive as he could make a sivuk, a coupling, a connection on Malchut the Malchut. And the light of Yehuda starts shining because coupling is called light of 400 or Gar, meaning 400, meaning reaching the Mohim. The Mashiach said to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai that his Torah is giving an elevation, it elevates the light of Yehidah in Parsuf Atik. So what you need to understand is, as we look at these schematics here, is that this whole system here is Atik, okay? And Atik has within itself other parts of it, so it's divided, right? These are called, it's divided, meaning it has many firmaments, many restrictions, and each of these restrictions create a mini system inside this system called Atik. And each of these systems have numerical values. In order for us to understand what the Zohar is talking about when it says 370 beams of light or rays of light. And what we need to understand is that from 0 to 9, this is Malchut or the Nukba. From 10 to 90 is Serampin. From 100 to 900 is going to be Ima or Bina. From 1000 to 9000 is going to be Abba or Chokmah. Then from 10,000 to 90,000 is going to be Arik and Bin. And then from 100,000 to 900,000, that's going to be what we call Atik. And because each Sephirah in Atik equals 100,000, the four Sephirot that we call Chokmah, Bina, Tiferet, which is all this, and Malchut of Atik total 400,000. Okay, this is in Atik. But the Baal HaSulam said that in this case, we should have said that the Torah performed the deed in 400,000. However, he said that the light emanated by Bina, Ima, is not used in the level of 400, but only on 370. Even though the Torah has reached the top of the firmament, it still could not reach the Gar, the Yimei Rishonot, the first three, meaning the last supernal 100. This is why there is only 370, while the upper 30 are absent in Bina. This also means that to the thousands, the light of Abba does not use the level of Gar of each thousand, but only the level of Vak, meaning 600 instead of 1000. Instead of Gar of each thousand, it uses 13 paths, 13 meaning, in this case, it's just where it gets confusing because it uses 13, which also means Chokmah, or the 32 path of Chokmah. The number 13 signifies that Chokmah, of the 32 paths of Chokmah, the weak life of Chokmah, called the holy persimmon. So this is when we says, that he says, your Torah has risen to 370 beams of light, and each beam divides into 613 beams. 613 commandments, we know them in the Torah, right? So we got the 600 instead of the 1000, and then it uses 13 of those 32 native author paths that that are ascending, and then they bathe in the rivers of the holy Persimmon. Persimmon meaning this light of Chokmah, the weak light of Chokmah. And this is what it says, that the Torah attained 370 lights, and each of them divide in 613 units. This means that the 400 lights of Ima, 30 of the upper life of Chokmah are absent, which leaves only with 370. And each 1,000 lacks the upper 400, meaning the Gar of Chokmah. Instead of using the 13th path of the holy Persimmon, each 1,000 contains no more than 613, for all the supernal secrets are concealed in Rabbi Shimon's assembly, and the Creator himself sealed this system, and he ascends and becomes adorned with the achievements of all the righteous who study the Torah. Then he says that by this we see that it's clear that that's our individual Mahut and Mahut. Even though before all the souls achieve, even though we can do this, in our individual level, we still cannot do it when it comes to the whole system, all the souls of the world. So we can achieve it individually, but we must work to achieve it also as a group. Okay, but in the meantime, we can achieve that in our individual self and work towards achieving it together as a humanity. In this case, a person can reach his individual level of attainment of 400, although in the general soul, they cannot be higher than 370, as in the case of the whole humanity, right? This is the degree that Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Chyah, and Achiyah Hashiloni have reached, and that's why the Creator confirms and signed the Torah of this assembly and those of the persons mentioned, Hezekiah, king of Judah, and the assembly of Achiyah Hashiloni. Let's go to item 59. Since I don't have item 59 here, but I'm gonna read it, and that'll be the last 59 and 60 are gonna be the last of this section of the Vision of Rabbi Chyah that we're using as introduction to Who is Your Partner. Then it says, the Mashiach said, I have come here not to confirm the Torah of your yeshiva, but only because the owner of wings, meaning Metatron, is on his way here, for I know that he shall not enter any other assembly but yours. Meanwhile, Rabbi Shimon told him of the oath taken by the owner of wings. Right then the Mashiach trembled in awe and raised his voice, and the heavens shook, and the great sea, which is Mahut, boiled, and the Leviathan stirred in the entire world, threatened to overturn. And that moment he saw Rabbi Chyah and Rabbi Shimon adornments. He asked, who gave man in this world the garments of the other world? Garments of the other world onto the body of this world, meaning that's what it means. Rabbi Shimon answered, this is Rabbi Chyah, basically a big one of the Torah. He said to him, gather him on his son, those who have left this world, and they shall join your yeshiva. Rabbi Shimon said, time has granted to him. He was granted time. Rabbi Chyah, time has not yet come. So the Mashiach said to Rabbi Shimon that he came not for the sake of the Torah, but because the owner of the wings had come to the assembly, to the yeshiva, wishing to know what Matat said, right? For Metatron has revealed that the end of correction will precede a terrible suffering for Israel. The heavens and the great sea, meaning Serampin and Nukba, will tremble, and the world will be on the verge of collapse. As predicted in Talmud Sanhedrin 97, all is broke. And this is why he raised his voice, wishing to mitigate all these destruction, right? And Mashiach was surprised to see Rabbi Chyah garment. It means to see that Rabbi Chyah exists in the physical realm, in our world, in the property of this world. This is a property of receiving, right? For he and yet he have merited to see the appearance of Metatron and hear the oath. So he has attained a degree of complete correction of all his evil inclination. And since he merited seeing Mashiach's face and receive this light of Yehidah, which is the level of Mashiach, has purely, completed, this work in the world, and there's nothing left for him to do here, he should leave and enter Rabbi Shimon's assembly in the Garden of Eden, meaning the world of Atzilut, right? But Rabbi Shimon persuaded Rabbi Chyah that he needs to continue performing new additional corrections in the world, and both Mashiach and Rabbi Shimon explained to Rabbi Chyah what else specifically Rabbi Chyah needs to do in this world in order to help this world be corrected and achieve that level of Gamar Tikkun that Metatron spoke about. Okay, let's go to item 60. That's the last item in Rabbi Chyah's vision. Rabbi Chyah trembled in awe when the Mashiach left, and his eyes were fulfilled with tears. For the Mashiach left Rabbi Shimon's assembly weeping from the great desire for the final correction and redemption. And Rabbi Chyah was also anguished from the fervent desire to reach the end of correction. Rabbi Chyah cried and said, "Happy is the lot of the Tzaddikim in the world. Tzaddikim is righteous. And happy is the lot of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who has merited all this." And with this, we have an introduction, basically, using the last part of the Vision of Rabbi Chyah to our next section in the book of Zohar, the prologue of the book of Zohar, that is called "Who is Your Partner?" In this section, we may end up having another lesson, because we're not going to be able to go over all that we need to cover here, and it's very important to cover it because we will understand what the sivuk, the couplings, these connections between the upper and lower happen and all that. So let's start with item 61, the prologue. Who is your partner? And it says Bereshit, and it starts with that. And when we see this word by itself, it's basically telling us, to pay attention, because this is a code, right? That has to do with something that is a beginning, something that is a level of spirituality, and then we're gonna see, what actually that word means when we continue to study this section. So let's start. Bereshit. Rabbi Shimon opened the discussion with the verse, "And I have put my words in your mouth." How important it is for a person to study laboriously the Torah day and night. Very important, because the Holy One, blessed be He, listens attentively to the voices of those who occupy themselves with the study of the Torah. And every word that receives a new interpretation by a person who delves into the study of the Torah creates a new firmament. And when we talk about firmaments here, make sure you have in mind firmament equals a screen. a screen. What is a screen? A screen is a change of intention, an intention basically that we have over our vessel. Let me see if okay, so the screen is a masach. Okay, so what we have is a masach. We're going to be talking about Rosh, we're going to be talking about the body, and we're going to talking about this system of Bina, Serampin, Nukba, and then of course Chokmah, Keter, and Atik. And what we're going to see is that we are talking about he builds firmament, firmament meaning a masach. A masach is basically like a lid. This is our vessel. Our vessel is egoistic, right? And when the creature, after receiving all this light for its own sake, makes basically a constriction, basically stops receiving the light in order to receive it only for the sake of the creator, it creates basically a masach, a barrier, a firmament. And that firmament is going to receive the Or Yashar, which is the direct light, and is going to also reflect that light, which is Or Hoser, reflected light. The light that remains is going to be called Or Makif, which is surrounding light. And here in this area that is called the Rosh, it's where certain sivug or couplings or connections are going to happen when the light hits that area in here. Depending how high, how low, that is how egoistic or how altruistic that light is going to be received. And depending on how that happened, the Or Yashar is going to be surrounded by another light, meaning the Or Chokmah is going to be surrounded by Or Hasidim. The light of Chokmah is going to be surrounded by Bina, and when it's surrounded by Bina, then it becomes an Or Hoser, which is a light of bestowal, a light to give back to the Creator. So we will accept the light as long as we are pleasing the Creator. So when we do that calculation in the Rosh, then we have something called Or Pinimi, which is internal light. The light comes inside the vessel, but it comes inside the vessel for the sake of the Creator, only for the sake of the Creator. While before, in the beginning, it used to come all the way to the vessel in an egoistic way, that then the creature felt what is called in Kabbalah shame. Not the shame that we feel, just a way to give a symbolism from this emotional feeling of shame, or how the vessel felt in the spiritual realm. And this is something that happens in a constant way as we enter a state that is called the recognition of evil in your life. We start creating a masach, a restriction, a tzimtzum. The word tzimtzum basically is that a restriction, a masach. And then we start receiving the light for the sake of the Creator. And what is the Or Makif? The Or Makif is basically the potential that we have to achieve spirituality. So that light that we let inside, that we receive in order to basically, because we receive it in a way that is not egoistic, it's going to put pressure in us, as well as this potential that we have to fulfill the whole vessel with the light of the Creator. So this light and this light are going to give pressure, and it's going to create certain spiritual actions in our soul and in the soul of all humanity that is going to create some consequences as well, that later we're going to study more in depth as we read the Zohar. But for now, just understand that when we talk about the firmaments, we're talking about the masach. And what you need to understand also, it talks about different firmaments. The masach is basically a malchut. Malchut is always restriction. The tabur, which is also another kind of screen in the middle of the vessel, that's also a type of malchut in there. The siyum, which is the ending, is also a malchut. So these are endings. Every ending, every restriction that doesn't allow the light to go lower is basically a firmament or a restriction. So we're going to have different restrictions, different levels, all the way down to the very end of the system or the creature. Okay, so let's go back to who is your partner. So Rabbi Shimon opened the discussion with a verse, and I have put my words into your mouth. This is from Yeshayahu 51:16. And how important it is for a person to study laboriously the Torah day and night. Very important, because the Holy One, blessed be He, listens attentively to the voices of those who occupy themselves with the study of the Torah. And every word that receives a new interpretation by a person who delves in the study of the Torah creates a new screen, a new firmament. So the Creator by the power of His word, the righteous can create new screens, new heavens by the power of this speech. This is why Rabbi Shimon opened his speech by explaining the words, in the beginning the Creator created the heavens and the earth. And Bereshit bara, the word bara, created, also means closing or limiting, right? There's a limit. And we must understand that the Creator had created everything in a closed environment, right? If you read the Ari, you're gonna see that there was a kind of like a vacuum, an emptiness, and then that emptiness was filled. So it was contained. It was there was a kind of like a limit for it, even though it came from an infinite light we call Ein Sof, right? He answers to put the corrections of heaven and the earth in the words of the righteous, to make them partners, participants in the creation, the creation of the heavens and the earth. And cancel the Creator made a secret correction of the heaven and the earth, and this is described in the beginning of the Torah, in the chapter of Bereshit. Son de Asilut ascends to Abba Ve'ima and to Arin Camping, while Adam ascends to Son and Yeshut. As a result, Adam receives the life of Nefesh Ruach HaNeshama de Atzilut, for the clothed Yeshut, and Son de Asilut, meaning ascend to their level. So let's put this in graphics so it can be understood what is happening here. So this is Adam, right? Adam basically is born inside the worlds of Bia, meaning Bria, Yesira, and Asya. And inside this world, right, there's inside this world there's the same parts of things that we see here. So inside Bria, we're gonna see that there's Ava Ve'ima, Seramping, and Nukva. So this is what's happening. It says that Zon de Asilu ascended to Avi. So Zon de Asilu means Seramping and Nukva ascended to Avi, right? So what we're talking here is about the ascension of the word. This is something that has to do with Shabbat. So we have this son that is down here in the Malchut, and they ascended to Avi. So we're going to see Avi. This is where son actually ascended. So it did basically 1, 2, 3 ascensions, right? And Adam HaRishon was also raised with it. And ascended to Avi and then to Arin Camping. So what you're going to see is that the area of Arin Camping is here, right? So it ascended all the way. Basically, the whole system was in on top of this what we call restriction that was done here, Parsa. And then while Adam ascended to Son and Yeshud. So Adam was in the Son and Yeshud, right? So if Adam was here, that means that when Zerampi ascended all the way over here, Adam will rise itself to that level of Son and Yeshud, which is going to be like around this area here, okay? So let me find another graphic. There you go. So Adam was inside this system here, Bria, when this system is basically elevated by this movement of the words, the words ascending. Adam is also dragged with it. And what we're going to find is that Adam ascended to Son and Yeshu. Son and Yeshu means to this level here below the Parsa of Atzilut, right? But it's above the Parsa of Abiyah. Remember, all these Pe, Parsa, Machzon, all these are restrictions or mahuts, that restrict the light from coming down all the way, like with all its power. It needs to restrict the light in order to reach down the bottom without destroying the whole system. So Adam is located within the words of Biyah, within this area here. And as a result, of this ascension, received the lights of Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama, the Atzilut. And because it's close between Yeshua and Son, meaning, it ascended to those levels of Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama, which is the He, Vav, and the He, that is on this area here. And then eventually it's going to receive the light of Chaya, which is in the world of Atzilut. Adam is was basically born in this area of the Biyah, the words of Bria, and he ascended together with these words. The other words can ascend above their permanent state or descend to their place with Adam in it. So as these words ascend, also the soul of Adam ascends. As these words descend, the soul of Adam descends with them. So the light that Adam receives depends on the location of this world. So that's why it is important to keep Shabbat. Shabbat is basically this ascension of these worlds, and it helps us basically practice this entrance to what is called, the ascension towards Atzilut. It says that in Talmud, Baba Batra 58:2, this is described as Adam ascend to the level of the Son, right, which is Serampin the Atzilut. This light is called Sihara Ilah, Sihara meaning Zohar, or in Hebrew, radiant light. As a result of the sin, Adam fell spiritual to the level of our corporeal world, the Olam Haseh, to this level. And this is also found in Hagigah, Talmud Hagigah 12:1. And instead of receiving the Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama of the Atzilut that he used to receive before his falling, he now receives the lights from the worlds of Biyah, Bria, Yesir, and Asiyah, that are below the Parsa. As a result of Adam's sin, Zerampin, which is called the heaven, and the earth, which is Mahut, of the world of Atzilut, descend to the level of Vak, the Zerampin. And the point of Mahut, respectively, and they descend below the Tabur of Parsuf Arich Ampin. So this is basically how it is the system, right? Adam falls, and then you see Serampin and Mahut are below the Tabur. So this is where we are. When the words ascend, you're going to see Serampin reaches the level of Abba Be'ima, and then Serampin also, together with Mahut, can reach the level of Arihampin. And that will make these words of Biyah go higher together with the soul of Adam that is embedded in this with these worlds. Okay. Now, it says that all the righteous that live in this world already assist spiritually in the spiritual worlds of Bia, and they're entrusted with a work of correcting all the sins or all the incorrected things that Adam did during his sin in the Garden of Eden, and that they're entrusted to renew the heavens and the earth, meaning Son de Atzilut, to correct in all this area here. Son de Atzilut meaning Serampia Mahut, and to elevate them to Abba Ve'ima and to Arhampin, as we said, and as it was in the time when Adam was without sin in the beginning. Then he says that even before the sin, Adam was not in a perfect state for which the Creator had created him. And after the righteous correct the consequences of the sin of Adam and attain this Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama, the Atzilut, that existed before the sin, a new work needs to be done to receive the upper light that has or needs to descend. This means that the first goal is to correct the sin of Adam, and the second is to attain even more higher or upper light, and this is called creating a new heaven and a new earth. These new properties of Zerampin and Nukhba basically open the gates to receive the upper light. The new level or degree that has never been present in any vessel is described as neither hath an eye seen the Creator besides thee. And the degrees which the righteous are attached to the worlds are called new heavens and new earth, for they're truly new and have never before existed in reality, meaning that they have never reached that level after the fall of Adam. So with this new heaven and new earth, we're going to see that the Tzaddikim, the righteous people, correct this to the level that preceded the sin of Adam during the creation, and they're not called new as they already existed, right? These levels are there constantly. In fact, if we look from down up, we see things that we need to correct. But if we were looking from the Creator standpoint, everything is corrected, right? So we're talking, this Zohar is looking from down up, right? But it's also telling us that these things, this level, even though no eye have seen them, right? They already exist. And the Creator Himself corrected them even before the sin of Adam. And this is what they're called renew. And the righteous who correct them are now gonna be called the Creator's partners. Hence the title, Who is your partner? Who is your partner? Those who are correcting from down below upper, right? When it says enclosing their mouths, implies the recession of this upper light that was not received by Adam and was not emanated by the Creator. And now, by the actions of the Tzaddikim, which are called the partners of the Creator, this light comes out and shines in creation. And also we're going to see that these Tzaddikim are divided into two groups. Those who correct Adam's sins and those who create new degrees of attainment. And the last ones are called Creator's partner because they open the gates of creation and in order for us to receive the upper light. Serampin is called a voice, and this is a secret of the speech, okay? Serampin is called a voice. A Mahut is called a speech. So when we read this, He says that Rabbi Shimon opened by saying, "Put my words in your mouth," right? Much effort should man exert in the Torah day and night, study Torah day and night, for the Creator is attentive to those who study it. And with every word that man attained by his effort in the Torah, he builds a firmament. So this is the secret of speech. Seramping is called a voice, Malchut is called a speech. When the righteous person studies the Torah, this person is basically raising the feminine water, the Ma'in Nuchbin, raising man, meaning using the voice and the speech of his Torah. And this Ma'in Nuchbin, the ascension of Ma'in Nuchbin, comes from the person's soul and ascends to Zon, to Zerampin and Nukba. His voice ascends to Zerampin, and his speech ascends to the level of Malchut and Nukba. The voice of the Torah that ascends with this Ma'in Nuchbin to Zerampin is called the Creator, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Okay? When we talk about Kadosh Baruch Hu, it's basically Zerampin. Okay? When a person studies Torah and delves into the secrets of the Torah, this person builds a new firmament, a new screen, a new intention in his life. These desires, I guess the desires start changing. A word means speech, and any speech that renews the Torah or reveals the secrets of the Torah by those who study it ascends in the form of these feminine waters to Malchut, who is called word and speech. This creates a new firmament in the form of a screen, right, on which a sivug, meaning a coupling, a connection, a hitting of the light between the Creator and the Shekhinah, is made. This is what the righteous who study the Torah attain by raising the feminine water, by raising man, the Ma'in Nuchbin. However, this revealing, this renewal, this work, internal work that corrects the words of Torah, does not imply anything new in what we call Torah, the voice of the Torah, because Malchut has to recreate herself for each new coupling, for each sivug. Malchut returned after each sivug to a state of virginity, thanks to the ascension of this raising of the Ma'in Nuchbin by the righteous people, by the tzaddikim, who are constantly renewing her properties. Her level of Yesod, the kli for the reception of the light that comes from Zerampin, is also renewed. That level that we call circumcision, the feminine is called the reception, the level of reception of the light that comes down from Zerampin. Hence, it is written in the Torah that the Torah is renewed by each word, by a word, meaning Malchut, is renewed by the speech of the righteous in the Torah, as after each of these sivug, when the Ma'in Nuchbin ascends, and this coupling between Zerampin and Nukba happen, between the HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Shekhinah happen, the previous kli disappears and a new one appears. Okay? So we have this here, each correction is gonna, it's like a ladder. It's gonna bring a higher level of attainment, new degrees of attainment that are gonna be loftier and more spiritual. And this is what he's talking about here. Okay? So we're going to stop here in order to not confuse ourselves and to make sure that you guys see this video really well, and because there's a lot of information just in what we talked, and then we're gonna continue with item 62 of who is your partner, and in there we're gonna see more about the numerology that we talked about in the beginning when we were reading from the last part of Rabbi Chyah's vision, in which we're gonna see now what is the meaning behind when it says here, the meaning, first of all, the meaning of what is called accepting the wisdom, kissing the wisdom, and adorns the wisdom with 70 adornments. And what also means, soaring through 70,000 worlds until it ascends to Atik, the Sephirah Keter. And then it says, and all that exists in Atik is concealed. And we're going to see how that happened, okay? And we're going to explain all that in our next lessons. I hope you have enjoyed this lesson, and I'll see you on lesson number 19 on the book Zohar.